Welcome. My name is Suzanne Henwood. I run a company called Embraining for Success. I'm also the director of The Healthy Workplace. This is a session entitled Managing Stress in the Eye of the Storm. And I particularly want to use this within my Christian faith to help people who want to come back to God, come back to calmness, and also use the beautiful body God created for us to manage stress in a really practical way. For those of you who don't know me well, I work within a field called Embraining. It uses the intelligence of the head, the heart, and the gut, and absolutely works on a scientific and physiological basis. So that's where most of these tools come from. In fact, all of these tools, they're only included if there's a research base behind them showing that they do work, and also the explanation, which I won't have time to share here, about how they work. And if you're interested more in Embraining, the book on the left there is an absolute fantastic read, and I really recommend you get hold of it. So we're living in difficult times. The world is changing at a faster rate than we've ever experienced it before, to the point that we can't look back on plans we've had in the past to know how to face what's happening now. Individuals and leaders are creating the path with every step that they take, and we're seeing some global leaders doing that really well and other global leaders struggling a little bit. Individually, many people are struggling to keep up with the pace of change. We already had rising and extremely high levels of stress, anxiety, depression, and all sorts of other mental health issues before COVID hit. Now that we're in lockdown, people are struggling to keep within that eye of the storm. So I want to share with you my favorite tools. I initially wrote this as my 5 favorite tools, but actually I've added in a bonus 6. So we'll put that on the end of the list. So my top 5 tools, and this is above and beyond and even woven within prayer, are breathing, yawning, shaking or dancing, mindfully focusing, and gratitude. They're all very simple. They sound simple, they are simple, but they are profound in that they actually work with the physiology and the autonomic nervous system to create that eye of the storm for you, that bubble where you can be absolutely safe. So let's just go through these one at a time. Breathing has to be my favorite top tip, go-to place for helping people manage stress. So many reasons why that's true. I'll just share some of them with you over the next couple of slides. But also as a Christian, if you look in the Bible and do a search on breath or breathing in the Bible, it comes up time and time again. We talk about it being the breath of life. His breath gives us life in Genesis. It talks about breath giving understanding in Job. John talks about breath being the receiving of the Holy Spirit. And again in Job, Job talks about by the breath of God they perish. So breath is powerful on so many levels. In terms of physiologically, why we use breath and why it's so easy and effective to use breath within stress is because it links us to that part of our system which is usually outside our conscious awareness. It also links us to our thoughts and our thinking. And so often these can be the source of anxiety as our head brains go creatively wild and catastrophizing in terms of the stories that it comes up with about what can go wrong, what else will happen, and how awful life is. So breath is that bridge, that connection point that helps us access body physiology that would otherwise be outside of our conscious awareness. What is important about breathing? Well, it affects virtually every system within your body. From your lungs to your heart, your neurology, your stomach, the muscles, your psychic systems, and also it has an effect on sleep, memory, ability to concentrate, and energy levels. So pretty important. And in Job 33 verse 4, I thought this verse was great. The Spirit of God hath made me, and the breath of the Almighty hath given me life. It is his breath we are breathing and working with. So I love how these tools just weave so beautifully around our Christian faith, and we can use them within some of our spiritual practices like prayer to get closer to God, but also to come in peace and in calmness. In Ecclesiastes 12, verse 6, it talks about the silver cord. Now, some Christian neuroscientists are theorizing that this may be the first ever reference to the vagus nerve. And we talk about the vagus nerve being a core part of our parasympathetic nervous system. So it would be amazing if that is what was being written about in Ecclesiastes. It is absolutely the core of the work that I do within the body now at stress and anxiety level. Okay. A few things to know about breathing in order to get you to be able to breathe effectively. And it's amazing that we have kind of forgotten how to breathe as human beings. If you watch a baby breathe, it's all in the tummy. The tummy just moves beautifully and easily in and out. The chest barely moves at all. But somewhere along the line, we've learned to hold on, to hold back, to create tension in our bodies, and we forget how to breathe effectively. So part of what we'll be doing is just reminding you some of those core components of breathing well. One is knowing that the in and the out breath stimulate different parts of the nervous system. So the in breath brings on our sympathetic or fight and flight part of the nervous system. Now, you know this. If someone ran up behind you right now where you're sat, came in behind you and went boo, you would quickly take a big breath in, you'd gasp in order to fill your body with oxygen and stimulate that stress response. Your adrenaline would be firing through your system so that you could decide whether or not you were going to fight whoever this was or run to get away from them. So the in-breath, naturally, every time you breathe in, just stimulates your sympathetic nervous system. Now, of course, if that was just someone joking and they come behind you and they laugh and they smile and they go, oh, sorry, just joking. What you would do is you would do a long sigh out breath. Oh, seriously? And it's the out breath that stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. And words associated with that are often rest and digest. The other way I like to remember it is S for sympathetic, stress, P for parasympathetic, peace. And what the parasympathetic does is dampens down that stress response and brings you back to autonomic balance. Now, let me just digress for a moment and let's talk about zebras. Bear with me, there's a reason I want to share this story with you. If you imagine a zebra on an African plain, eating away at the grass, and it suddenly hears a rustle in the grass 100 meters away from it, it will become fully alert. The adrenaline will run, thinking that it could be a hunter, a lioness, about to try and take it out for its dinner. That adrenaline will allow that zebra to run fast to save its life. It's a life and death threat response. Now, the good news story with this zebra is it runs really fast, it gets away, the lion gives up, and then the zebra is back in the plain. Doing what? Well, very quickly, it will just go back to eating grass. It doesn't go over to the herd and have a conversation about, did you see who that was again? Do you know how horrible that? Do you see the size of that light? Did you see how? Zebras don't do that. Humans do that. And what we do by doing that is we don't go back into the eating grass, the rest and digest parasympathetic system, settling our bodies back to balance. We basically keep firing off the cortisol, the second level of neurotransmitter and hormone system, so that we keep ourselves in that stress response. And often, before we've come out of one stress response, we've added another one on top of it. So we find ourselves in a negative cycle of stressing. So that's why I just wanted to share the story of the zebra. Be like a zebra. Yes, stresses happen. Yes, it's great to be able to protect your body. What you don't want to do is then keep firing off that system after the threat has passed. And indeed, in our lives as humans, often the threat isn't a life and death threat. It's something that might be unpleasant or uncomfortable, but it was never something that we really needed to do a full stress response for. Okay, moving on from the zebra, let's go back to our list. So that's the in-breath and out-breath. Just being aware of that can be really, really useful. And I'll just share another parasympathetic in terms of knowing that long out-breath creates relaxation. Great way to go to sleep at night. So if you want to get to sleep really easily, do a few moments of longer out-breath, breathing, sighing, so long as you're not waking someone up who's next to you, and you will go to sleep really, really easily. So what we are creating in embraining is what we call a calm alert state. It's not about getting into relaxation. This is about coherence at the heart level. I'm not going to go into the science behind that right now, but what we're looking for is a calm alert state. So it's great for decision making, for learning, and for keeping yourself safe in a stressful environment. And how we do that is through an even breathing rhythm. So the length of the in-breath and the out-breath are the same. Ideally, we want to count to a count of 6 in and then a count of 6 out. Now, if you haven't done any breathing work for a long time, if you know that you're someone who breathes in a relatively shallow way, if your shoulders rise and fall as you breathe, that's a good sign that you're breathing quite shallowly at the top of the lungs. Then just take some time, maybe lay on the floor, put your hands on your tummy, and just allow your lungs to fully expand. Allow that diaphragm to drop down, to contract, so that your tummy rises as you breathe in, and then allowing it to naturally fall as you breathe out. So it's worth spending some time getting that breathing rhythm right, and linked to that is about your posture. We're very good as humans these days of slumping over our IT devices. So if you are sat up, then you want to be sat up nice and straight, not forced, not pressured, but nice and straight. So there's a curve in the bottom of your spine. What you'll find then is your shoulders come back slightly and downwards, so that you're relaxing your shoulders and the muscles that hold your shoulders, and your head should be nice and evenly placed on the top. That moving back as you sit upright allows your lung fields to really open up and get those good breaths in. So take some time, if you're not familiar with that, just to do that before you move into any breathing practice. Okay, a couple of other bits. What we also do, and this is linked to the work of HeartMath in America, is we place our hand on our heart so that we feel the heartbeat. And with that, we're also feeling a positive or an uplifting emotion at heart level. So this is not thinking about appreciation or gratitude. This is feeling it in the heart. And what that does is it impacts on your heart rate variability, which is one of the key signs of heart health that we use these days, particularly within stress. So again, I'm not going to go into all the science of that right now. All you need to know while you're using this on a practical basis is, as you're breathing evenly and deeply and slowly, you're going to place your hand on your heart and feel something like appreciation or gratitude at a heart level. And this is why it works so beautifully within our Christian prayer life. We can be doing this prior to a prayer, getting ready to deeply connect with appreciating our relationship with God, for example, at the heart level before we then move into our prayer. Okay, a couple of last little bits. One is, if you can, breathing through the nose is much better for you than breathing through the mouth. All sorts of reasons for that. One is that the nose filters any particles out of the air. Another is that it cools or warms the breath. It regulates the temperature so that it's less of a shock in the lungs when you breathe the air in. And the third one is, breathing through your nose slows down the breathing. You're more likely to get a deeper breath breathing in through the nose slowly than you are by gulping air in through the mouth. So if you can, breathing through the nose, much better for you. And breathing with the diaphragm, it's that big belly breath that we talked about earlier. Your belly should move, your shoulders shouldn't really move at all. And it's natural and it's easy and it flows. If it feels that you're forcing it, just cut down the count from 6 to 5 or even 4 in and out until you become so efficient at doing it easily at the lower number, you can increase that number over time. And what all of this is doing is beautifully stimulating the vagus nerve and impacting on how your heart beats moment to moment. And it's like a Control-Alt-Delete set or reset on your autonomic nervous system. Really, really effective in relation to stress. Okay, I've been talking for a while. Let's have a play. Before I do, I just want you to literally measure your stress level in your body right now. Just feel into your body. A low score, 1 or 2, would be pretty much you're relaxed, everything's okay, nothing's bothering you. A 9 or 10, you would certainly be feeling some tension in your body. You may feel a racing pulse rate, and you may be having thoughts, anxious thoughts of not being able to carry on for very much longer. So wherever you are on that, it's fine. It just is, no judgment. But I want you to have a score so that when we've done some breathing together, what you can do is get the objective measure that that score drops just from doing 2 or 3 minutes of breathing together. So it's really powerful, and I wanted you to experience that while you're listening in. Okay, so get your measure of that. Just notice in your mind what that number is right now before we do anything together. And we're going to move on and we're going to do some breathing together. Now, this is a little bit faster than the ideal, but I was thinking that maybe not everybody would be familiar with breathing in terms of slow and deep. So I was going to do a lower count to start with. If it's too easy for you, then just ignore the visual and extend your count up to 5 or 6. That's absolutely fine. So I'm going to set this going, and as I do, I just want you to bring your breathing in line with the change of the breath action. I'm just going to quieten that music down as well and play for you some beautiful music by Julie True. It's Christian soaking music, and this one's called Resting in You. If you want to look it up, her album that this comes off is called Live Light. So just even as that's beginning to play, bring your breath beautifully into the same rhythm, breathing in as it opens up and breathing out as it closes down. And in and out. We'll just do a couple more of those before I extend the kind of breathing practice at all. Just as you're doing that, already notice what you're feeling in your body in response to that. Remember to be breathing in through your nose, and just check your posture, that you're really letting your lungs fill right to the very bottom. Your tummy moves really easily, and it feels even and easy and completely natural. It's just you remembering how your body was created to breathe. If there's any sense at all of any major stress or anxiety there, just do a couple of really longer out breaths and then come back again to the rhythm of the graphic on the screen. And if you find yourself relaxing a little too much, because remember, this is not about relaxing, this is about calm alert. So if you feel that you're going sleepy or into relaxation, just move your body a little and breathe in a little deeper. And then bring yourself back into this beautiful rhythm again. And what this is doing is giving you control over your autonomic nervous system. It's like a neurological hack to that stress response. And just doing this for 2 or 3 minutes after you feel a stress response rising will just settle your system back to balance. If anybody finds that their inner voice, especially if it's a critical voice, is still talking, just give it a job to do and ask it to count. So 1 in, 2, 3, 4 out. 2, 3, 4 in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. And if you give it that job to do, then it distracts it from its negative thinking, that old pattern that's so familiar, teaching it a new pattern now. And now that your breathing is in that beautiful rhythm, I want you to take your attention to your heart space and just place the flat of the palm of your hand over your heart so that you can feel it. Feel that regular beat and rhythm, and get a deep sense of appreciation or gratitude of someone or something specific. Just bringing that to mind. We've just had Easter. Maybe it's that fresh realization of the enormity of what God did for each one of us. Maybe it's someone in your life that has just been incredibly kind to you in the lockdown period. And I want you to feel that feeling in your heart. If I were there with you and asked you to describe it, how do you know that it's appreciation or gratitude? Does it have a color? Are there any sounds associated with it? Any feeling or texture? Any movement? How big is this feeling? And where specifically is it in your heart area? Get really specific so that not only could you describe it to me in finer detail, but you can go back to it really, really easily every time you do your breathing practice. And you might find a warmth extending from your heart and flooding around your system, or a sense of calm or peace. Just play with those characteristics to really ramp up and amplify that feeling. If you gave it a score of appreciation, what would it be out of 10? And how could you increase that score by changing some of those details? And just keep that even breathing going, knowing that your body will be enjoying this. It's maybe a long time since you took time to reconnect in this way. Your body needs this every day. Deep, refreshing breathing, resetting your system, doing that Control-Alt-Delete on your stress response so that you can carry on. Just be really conscious of any language coming up for you in your head. Your body listens to all that conversation inside and outside of you. So choose really empowering, encouraging words. This too will pass. I am safe. All will be well. I can snuggle under the shadow of his wing. Just create a sentence or a mini prayer that you can use over and over, and take that in at your heart level, deeply appreciating that you have that now. And enjoy that feeling in your body, knowing that you can create it again easily at any time. And just be aware how present you are to this moment and your body while you're breathing in this way. And I'm going to stop the music, and I'm going to stop the graphic, and just keep breathing evenly as you bring your attention back onto the presentation. Because you can do this sort of breathing anywhere at any time, whether you're in a meeting, whether you're walking down a street. There's nothing to stop you doing it without anyone else even noticing what you're doing. It is an amazingly powerful technique, and it's my number one for reducing stress. So coming back to your measure, just feel into your body now. How has that score changed from just 2 or 3 minutes ago? And I hope you'll find that it's dropped at least a couple of numbers, if not maybe even more. And I hope that's a really good convincer for you that this is really easy to do. And you can do it anywhere. You could do it with other people who maybe are expressing some stress or concern too. You could just talk them through that breathing, coming back to those main points, the even in and out breath, the deep, regular breath that drops the diaphragm down and allows the belly to rise, and that feeling of appreciation or gratitude at heart level. It is that simple, and I always knew this worked theoretically, and I had used it on some areas of my life, but many of you will know 4 years ago we had a house fire and lost everything, and we used, this is our spare room, or what was left of it after the fire, and we used this along with gratitude and got through this whole process stress-free. So certainly we've had to use it under extreme conditions. We know that it works, and it works with, you know, fairly significant stresses in life. So just because it's so simple, don't dismiss it. It is something you need to come back and do over and over and over. About 5 minutes of that coherent breathing or heart focused breathing gives you between 4 and 6 hours of good heart health. So knowing that there's 24 hours in a day, that we sleep for 8 of them, my logical mind goes, that's 16 hours that I need to cover. If I go on the pessimistic side and say it's only going to give me 4 hours of heart health, then I need to do it at least 4 times a day to keep myself covered all day. So when I'm working with clients, I often prescribe this 4 times a day and whenever else you need it. So whether you're going into a meeting you think might be difficult, or whether or not you've just unexpectedly come across some stressful situation, then you just do 2 or 3 minutes of this breathing and reset your system back to balance again. Okay, so let's move on. That was tool number 1. Tool number 2, mindful yawning. Now this one might sound a little bit odd, but the current research is showing that a mindful yawn is the quickest way and most effective way to cool down head-based anxiety. And it is cooling it down literally and metaphorically. So what we're not talking about here is a polite little, oh, excuse me, yawn. We are talking about a deliberate, purposeful, massive, outrageous, mindful yawn that first off you have to fake. So you're going to stretch, you're going to make a sound, you're going to go, and you're going to do that 2 or 3 times, and then your body, your beautiful body, will kick in and start to do it for you. And you're going to let your body do that maybe another 4 or 6 times on its own. What that does is it absolutely brings your body back into a quietness at the head level. Now, clearly, there's a little bit of an embarrassment factor about this, and if you're with other people, if you're in a work meeting, it may not feel wholly appropriate. But in a quiet room, go into a bathroom, go out into the fresh air, do some mindful, deliberate, purposeful yawning, and you will find that that head chatter just quietens down really, really quickly. Okay, number 3, another quick one, shaking. Well, shaking is a natural human response to stress, and what it does is it releases that stress and any emotional kind of tagging from that stress out of our main muscles and out of our bodies. Unfortunately, again, maybe because of the embarrassment factor, we tend to cope and manage and resist the shaking, preventing it sometimes. When children are shocked by something and go to shake, our temptation is to wrap our arms around them so that we actually stop the shaking. If you've ever been unfortunate enough to be in a car accident, what we do is we literally strap people onto a trolley to protect their spines, but by doing that, we're also restricting the body's natural ability to shake out that tension. So knowing that this is good for us, let's just look at a clip of an impala to show how this happens naturally in wildlife. So this impala has been caught It is still alive, but it's gone into a freeze response. Its autonomic nervous system has just withdrawn completely for a while. And you'll notice in a moment that a distraction comes along, and literally the head will drop, and you would think that that impala has already died from the level of relaxation in the muscles of the head there. No movement whatsoever. He's not going to give up his dinner too quickly, but that distraction keeps coming. Eventually he runs off, and then that impala will be in that freeze mode for up to 20-30 seconds or so. And then what happens is it will take a massive in-breath, remembering that in-breath is the sympathetic response. Okay, so that's shaking, and there's several ways you can do it. You can literally shake your body out, you can shake your arms, you can shake the main core of your body, put on a great dance tune and shake as if nobody's watching you. Taylor Swift does a great one, Shake It Out, which even the words fit. It's the one we use in the course when we're teaching this. So just take time after there's been some stress in the body to literally shake it out. And if you know that you're holding stress in the body, there's all sorts of somatic therapies that can help you to release that. Trauma release exercises is one of them. And certainly we have trauma release experts within the Auckland area. If you're interested in that, get in touch. I can put you in touch with them. Okay, so moving on. Many of you will recognize that this is the view out of the back of my house. And yes, we are incredibly blessed. One of the next tools that I want to teach you is on focused attention. So sometimes we can get so caught up in our thinking that we're either thinking about stuff that has just happened or we're thinking about stuff that hasn't even happened. We want to bring ourselves back into the here and now, this present moment. And focusing on something specific is a really good way of doing that. So I happen to pick this picture. You can pick any picture, or you could have an object that you're holding in your hand, or even a sound that you play that you then focus on with exquisite attention. So just in this picture, for example, you might want to pick one of the hanging baskets. You might want to pick the colour of the water in the harbour. You might want to pick the rail, the wood and the shadows, or the fern, or the cabbage tree, or even the distant shore on the other side of the harbour. Just pick something. And then look at it and create in your mind as much detail as you can about it. Color, texture, size. And all you're doing is being aware. There's no judgment. There's no story. It is just noticing. And as you do that, notice what happens in your body. For most people, it will bring a stillness and a quietness. But if you just do this for a couple of minutes every hour, can again help you settle your physiology back to a calm space. Now, we know that our brains will do that whether or not it's a real picture or a real scene we're looking at, or a created one or an imagined one. So it doesn't matter if you don't have something around you, just close your eyes and imagine a beautiful picture of something, a memory of something, and you will have the same effect. As I say, you can also use things that you can hold. I have a wooden cross that I will sometimes just hold and feel and get the sense of the grains of the wood and the size, the sharpness of the corners, etc. Now, sometimes when someone is incredibly anxious, the head base is racing away so much that it can feel difficult to have that focused attention on something. And so again, giving the head a job to do, giving it a process to do, can be helpful to quieten that down. One of my favorite ones, and there's a few versions of this around, but this is how I use it. What you do is you go through this list relatively slowly. You can do it while you're breathing deeply and evenly, and you're going to just look around you in the environment you're in and describe 5 things that you can see. So you would name it. I can see, for example, a blue mug on the coaster next to my computer. 1. I can see my iPad to the left of me that has a red cover. 2. You're going to do 5 of those. You're then going to do 5 things you can hear, 5 things you can feel, and then it's up to you whether you do those others below the line. Some people struggle more for smell and taste to come up with 5. And in fact, sometimes this tool is written as 5 things you can see, 4 you can hear, 3 you can feel, 2 you can smell, and 1 you can taste. So you can use this in whichever way you like. For me, what I tend to do is 5 see, 5 hear, 5 feel, and then sense back into my body. If there's any stress remaining at all, I'll then go through the process again, but doing 4 things I can see, 4 I can hear, 4 I can feel. And again, at the end of that, assessing, and I might drop to 3, but usually that's more than enough to bring your mind into a calmness and a stillness. And then maybe you could do the focused attention on an object or an image beyond that while you do your balanced breathing. So it's a really good one for anxiety. Okay, before I give you the last tool, I just wanted to show you a little bit of the kind of reality of stress and why I'm so passionate about what I do. So the slide that you're looking at on your left there is a normal, healthy slice of brain, and the one on the right is one that has had chronic stress for a period of time. So this is, serious in terms of it's so debilitating, it can actually be life-threatening. And the more we can do to keep our stress under our managed control on a daily basis, the better and the less likely we're going to have impacts in our organs. This one happens to show your head, but it equally has impacts in the heart, your digestive system, and your neurology. Now, the good news is that we do have what's called neuroplasticity in our body, and we can work with those neural networks, whether it's head, heart, or gut, or throughout the body, to regenerate new neurons and to repair neurons that have been damaged. Now, it's not an absolute system, so the ideal is still to not get stressed in the first place, but it is good to know that we can absolutely impact on the physiology underneath our stress levels so that over time we reduce the impact from it, and we can change the regulation of it. We can more easily react quicker to settle that stress down. I thought I'd just share this definition of stress with you. It comes straight out of the online Oxford Dictionary: a state of mental or emotional strain. Now I'm going to add to that, and I'm going to say that I believe it can also be spiritual strain. So if we are out of connection with God, I think we also feel that as a discomfort or a distress in our body. So it's a state of mental, emotional, or spiritual strain or tension resulting from adverse, not always life-threatening, but adverse or demanding circumstances. And the really important reason I wanted to share that is to say that sometimes the demanding circumstance on the surface can look like it's something good and that we should be pleased about. For example, getting a new job or a promotion or having a baby. That can still create stress if it's putting demands on the body above what we're able to cope with in that moment. So stress isn't necessarily stuff that would appear negative. And of course, stress is completely and utterly normal. And in many cases, if you think back to the zebra, really life-saving. It's not something you want to take away at all out of the body. You want to be able to do stress when it's appropriate. What we don't want is that chronic kind of rewiring of stress over and over and over, often which comes from negative thinking and negative story that then creates the kind of chronic stress health implications in our body. I just shared this graph with you. What you want to look at is, as a self-assessment, where are you in any moment on this graph? If you are right down the bottom to the left, in such calm that you're almost withdrawn, apathetic, bored, then that's not healthy either, and certainly not within a workplace in relation to performance. If you go to the other extreme, where you're way beyond stress, exhaustion, breakdown, then that distress is really unhelpful and debilitating as well. In fact, as we saw in the Impala, if you keep going down that line, stress on stress on stress, what happens is you go into freeze, which is right back on that left-hand side again. So where you want to be is in what's called eustress or good stress, at that peak of the curve that keeps you challenged and productive, energized, focused, and work just flows. Time just flies by. You don't even notice it. And that's a dance, because everything changes in you, everything changes in the environment around you, and you need to just constantly reassess, keeping yourself at the peak of that graph. Okay, I've said a few times that we need to assess where we're at with our stress level. Indeed, I asked you to score yourself earlier. Some people struggle with that. They're not as in touch with their bodies. So here's a list from HeartMath, and really, really useful, simple tick list of, have I got stress in my body? Do I need to do something about it? And what they say is, if you can tick 3 or more of these issues, then you probably have sufficient stress in your system that you need to be doing some of these tools or other tools to get that stress out. And I'm sure you'll agree that's a relatively low marker. So being a bit forgetful, feeling a little nervous, and maybe feeling fatigued, not beyond the realms of possibility that lots of us would be feeling that at the moment. Irritable with the kids, lost your sense of humour, worrying about when we're going to come out of lockdown or what's going to happen when we go back to work. Again, really easy to imagine any 3 of those coming to the fore, so that, yeah, it's just a reminder to you, go and do something about it, notice sooner, act sooner, and reset your autonomic nervous system. One last thing, this is research based on work, but I think it's equally as valid. Again, another sign that you might be experiencing stress. You're reactive in your decision making, you're losing your rag with the kids, it's affecting your relationships. I could go through the list. You could see how all of those are just as relevant in the home, in any group that you belong to, as well as in the workplace. So if you recognize any of those, again, do something about it, put some regular practice in place, and get your stress back under control. Okay, my number 5, gratitude. I love doing gratitude practices on a daily basis. And ideally, what you do is you write out, handwritten, preferably not on an app, it's even more effective, handwritten, 3 things you're grateful for every day, with a little bit of a description about why you're grateful for them. This is one way of doing that. If you want to be artistic and creative, you can create yourself a little gratitude sun and create all of the things you're grateful for. Again, if you're sat doing that while you're doing your balanced breathing, it's a beautiful way of bringing 2 or 3 of these techniques together. And to do that within prayer is also really beautiful, because ultimately, of course, we're grateful back to God. In fact, if we look in some of the Bible verses, 1 Chronicles 16:34 says, "Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever." You could even write a Bible verse at the center of that, and then write around that sun all the things you're grateful for. In 1 Thessalonians 5:16-17 goes even further. Rejoice always. Not sometimes, not when you feel like it, not on a good day. Rejoice always. Pray continually, and give thanks in all circumstances. Sometimes, like when we were in the house fire and using gratitude to get through that, it was quite difficult to think of things we were grateful for. Sometimes my sarcasm hit in, and I would say, I'm grateful we even heard from the builder or the insurance company today. But it was that constant disciplined practice of coming back to focusing on what you're grateful for every day helps to keep your thinking much more positive. I'm in the middle of writing a gratitude diary with an embraining bent, and this is just a little bit out of that. That bit at the top behind my photo says 5 things I'm truly grateful for today. So I extended it to 5 instead of 3. 3 key emotions I experienced today. It's really good on emotional intelligence to actually be able to name the emotions you're feeling. There's about 3,600 emotions that we can feel as human beings. Most of us use about 12 in a day. So just feeling into becoming familiar with some of the other words and emotions and extending your range over time. Where did I show acts of kindness today? Really good one. All of the science literature says that random acts of kindness is one of the key things that influences your own happiness. So you're doing the act of kindness for someone else, but you're getting huge benefit yourself. And who was I truly, deeply being today? Were you being a calm you? Were you being a kind you? Were you being a grateful you? Just being really honest, linking into that heart level kindness, gut level being or identity. What am I telling myself about today? Going into the head and checking in with the stories, the words that you're using, which so often just become so routine, we're not even aware of them. But those words are giving our body direction and instruction on a daily basis. So being really conscious about the words that you're using, the stories you're telling, and always a good idea at the end of the day, what did I learn today? Whether or not it was a good day or a down day, what did I learn? What will I do or did I do today because of being grateful? How did that change your behavior? How did it change what you noticed? How did it change what you do? And what was your attention drawn to? What were you aware of today? What that does, for those that are interested, is goes round 4 brains. It includes the autonomic nervous system as a brain, to make sure that the gratitude practice is fully integrated across all of us, not just coming from the head. If you say you're grateful, if you think about being grateful, that is not nearly as good as dropping into the heart space and feeling grateful. And that's not nearly as good as dropping into the gut to include that to being grateful, actually it becoming part of you. So it's just a little bit of embraining into the gratitude process. Okay, benefits of gratitude. They're pretty damn impressive, I have to say. If you could buy a vitamin pill that did this, you would probably be prepared to pay quite a lot of money for it, and you'd probably take it every day. So for 5 minutes of your time, writing down 3 things you're grateful for in a notebook or on a pad, these are the research shown benefits that it can create for you. It absolutely changes your thinking and your focus from negative to positive. It boosts feeling of satisfaction, happiness, and well-being. Certainly at the moment, we all want more of that. It reduces fear. Again, that's really imperative at the moment and when you're in stressful situations. It improves discipline and self-control, strengthens relationships, obviously helps us to help others, and it improves the quality of your life and gives you peace of mind. And it's better for your mental, physical, and I would say emotional and spiritual health. So hard to argue with that in terms of why we would all want to introduce a gratitude practice into our everyday. And if you don't want to write it down, then at least within your prayers, either in the morning or evening or both, just saying to God what you're grateful for and why that's important to you is really, really beneficial. Okay, this presentation then has been about how do we basically keep ourselves topped up with energy and with calm when life around us can get pretty tough. And if you just monitor into your system and notice that that dial is heading back towards, the anywhere below halfway mark, then thinking about what practice you want to do and then taking action and doing something about that and then feeling the benefit of it. So again, head, heart, gut involvement in refueling yourself and keeping yourself energized. This is the basis of resilience, of course. I've done it under the guise of stress today to help you with some practical tools. My bonus tip, number 6, humming. Humming is incredibly powerful for stimulating your parasympathetic nervous system. And it's better in a way than singing. Singing has other major benefits, but humming is directly impactful on your parasympathetic or your peaceful nervous system. Now, of course, if you're humming a tune to a song and there are words, those words will also be going through your head and giving you all those positive words at head level. So be careful what it is you're humming. hum out a hymn, hum out a chorus. Be careful of the words that you're unconsciously putting into your system through the songs that you're humming, if that makes sense. And why is there a gorilla? Gorillas are brilliant. They hum as they eat. We said that the parasympathetic is often called rest and digest, and it helps them to enjoy their food. So feel free to hum while you're eating as well. But humming, rocking, lots and lots of really simple ways of just stimulating calm in your body. And that's my top tip, number 6 for today. I want to say then a huge thank you for listening in. Please let me know if I can do anything to support you in these difficult times. There's a range of ways there that you can get in touch with me. And there is a free stress first aid kit on thehealthyworkplace.com, where the healthy workplace is separated by hyphens, the-healthy-workplace.com. And also there's a group of MBIT coaches globally on there that are willing to do coaching for cohort if you've been impacted by COVID in any way. So please do go and have a look at the resources we're making available. Our passion, our heart is to support you through these difficult times. And my prayer is that you will stay safe, that you will stay calm, and that you will keep praising God through the midst of it, knowing that this too will pass. Bless you, and thank you for listening.